Hi and welcome back. It's such a pleasure to have you with me, and thank you for following these videos. Um, you've had such amazing questions in the comment section of the last video. It's really difficult to just be able to pick a few, but as you may remember, I am compiling the channelings into a written document. So I do plan to include more questions in there so I can, because there are so many great questions, and I think more of them need to be answered. So, okay, but the questions this time that I've selected for today is number one, how do we overcome fears, whether they are justified or not? And what happens to evil people after they die? This is a follow-up to the last week question about heaven and hell. So what happens to evil people after they die? The next one is, how do we heal borderline disorder? Now, this is a really difficult disorder. I've come across people who suffer from this. Some of them that have actually done work to fix it. So it would be interesting to get some more depth on that, because I know it's a super difficult condition. The next one is, how was Jesus? Was he divine, alien, or human? And some more information on Jesus. The last one is, what is chronic fatigue and how do we heal it? That's a very interesting one, because I've suffered from that many years, and now that I'm suffering from burnout. It's a similar condition. I have some suspicions about what it could be about, but it would still be very good to get the perspective of spirit and see what it's really about. And the offer this week is the Money, Purpose, and Flow report. It's a personal report, so I'm going to need your birth details. So if you want to order that, you will need to also send me your birth details, like time, date, and place of birth is what I'm going to need to prepare the report. And the price during the offer is $149. And this is the report that got me into astrology, really. It really aligned me with my purpose. So what it does is it helps you align you with your purpose and your luck factors and your money factors, and in a way that is joyful to you and that is most appropriate to how you are naturally wired. So it's really about it's focused on the remedies. So it sort of helps you with any difficulties and helps you shift that energy to a positive one. I really love that report. It's done wonders for me. I still follow the guidance in that one for myself. So yeah, I've spoken about it a lot in the past, so I'm not going to get into a lot of detail. I know you want the channelings, but if you want that report, it's available now for $149. So it's a good time to order it now if that's something that you need. If you need help with the finances, or that's been a pattern that's been really difficult for you, or you're generally like depressed or whatever, which is not too uncommon these days, then I recommend that one. Now let's get into the questions, because I know in the last video I was talking a lot before I even got into the channelings, and I know you're here for the channelings. So, oh, by the way, speaking of not talking too much, it's my birthday today. So I would appreciate some birthday love. It's also the full moon, so intense time. Okay, number one. How do we overcome fears? Fears have a purpose. Okay, more on that, please. Fear, you are wired to feel fear when you are sensing a threat. Okay, so is it always justified? In a way, yes. Whenever you sense the threat, you will feel the fear. But you tend to also get into a habit where you experience things as threats, or you sense them as threats, whereas if you were to just think through them and find solutions to your fears, then you would have no reason to fear. One example is the fears that you are fed from your TV and news. They will influence you into a fearful state. But if you were to calmly and rationally evaluate the level of threat, then you would know that there is no reason to fear. In the news, they will exaggerate perceived threats as if you have to watch your back constantly, whereas most of the things that they encourage you to fear, you have no reason to fear. And in fact, you would be safer not fearing these things, particularly this illness that many of you are fearing right now. In this particular case, the fear is more harmful than the illness. And the fear in itself is what is attracting the illness to you. There are other times when fear is quite justified, and then the purpose of the fear is to make you think and make you plan for your security and safety. Consider fear in most cases to be an encouragement to think deeper in terms of how to set up security and safety for yourself regarding a particular threat. Okay, so how do we overcome fears? Because sometimes it feels unjustified. How do we overcome fears? It really helps to evaluate what you perceive as a threat and think of ways that you can overcome this or circumvent it, and that will help relieve the fear. Many times when you get that instinctive fear, it makes you irrational and you stop thinking and you just go with the feeling. But the fear is just a sign that you need to evaluate the threat and find ways to overcome it or circumvent it. Many times when you do this, the fear will go away because you will discover that you have solutions for this threat. There are very few instances where the fear is so justified that you cannot overcome it by thought alone or by planning alone. Specifically in cases where your life is at risk. If the threat level is such that your life is at risk, then too you need to evaluate and plan so that you gain control of the situation in the sense that you know what you will need to do. And then when you know what you need to do, there is no need for the fear anymore because you will have a plan of action. The fear in itself attracts danger, and when you have a plan of action, whether or not you are in danger, you can release the fear, and so the threat is less likely to affect you. Interesting. I hope that was helpful. Oh, the next one is, what happens to evil people after they die? Good question. Fantastic question. It varies. Some people are so convinced that they will go to hell that they will simulate that experience for themselves. They feel so unworthy and so deserving of punishment that they will put themselves through that before they can forgive themselves. Other people who have played an evil part in life will not have the simulation of hell. They will just move on to the next dimension with and evaluate. They will be more in tune with the fact that they planned to play a role in life, and they will evaluate how they played this role. They will know the purpose for it, but they will need a time of healing to cleanse themselves of the darkness that they had to step into. It is a very difficult task to play an evil character in life. And so when these people pass away, they will need to cleanse their spirit to get back to themselves. So we need more on that, right? So what kind of consequences are there? What kind of consequence? Are there any consequences in the afterlife? There will be an honest look at the actions that they have chosen in life. They will look honestly at those choices. There will be no judgment, but they will, in this state of complete honesty, they will see the impact and the consequences of their choices. They will not be judged for it, but they will see the damage that was caused because of their choices. Because this is an environment of complete honesty, they will have no excuses or justifications. They will have no choice or no desire but to take accountability for their choices. But this will be done in a productive way, in the sense that they will, with this knowledge, know how they could have done better, and they will truly understand in their hearts. So in a way, it is a learning of the heart, and it's a genuine confrontation with themselves. Okay, so there's no punishment or not in the sense that you tend to view punishment, but in the sense of pain, yes, because when they are, or when you are confronted, because most of you will be confronted with the impact of your actions. So when you are confronted with the impact of your actions, you will feel the pain in your heart. You will feel complete compassion. But this is a step beyond compassion, because you will not just feel for other people. You will truly know the full impact, and it will be personal to you. It will not be about somebody else, as it is when it comes to compassion. It will be about you. And so it's a step beyond compassion, where you truly understand. And that will be painful in your heart. You will have no way of escaping this reality check. You will not want to, but you will be surrounded in love as you do this. So you will have complete love and no judgment at all, but just a confrontation with yourself and your chosen actions. And you will truly understand what you have done. Wow. So the feeling I'm getting, it's totally like heart-centered. Like no judgment or anything, but just you really feel it in your heart. Wow. I hope that answered the question. Okay. But I think there might be more on that, because like what happens after we die is such a vast topic. Did my best to try and convey. Wow. Okay, moving on. How do we heal borderline disorder? Borderline disorder is when a person also has their childhood very present. So when you are dealing with them, you never know whether you're going to get their adult self or their child self. They look the same, but this inner child is always present and sometimes takes over. Okay, so how do we deal with it as close family and friends? How do we deal when someone is suffering through this? You have to first know that you are sometimes dealing with their child self. They regress sometimes without being aware of it. They have been disrupted in their development. And so, when they were children, a traumatic event that was beyond what they could handle at the time kept them stuck in that state of childhood. In a way, they did grow up, but that childhood self is always present. So what can loved ones do to help? You need to be very gentle with them. They don't always know when they are reacting from their child self. Be very gentle with them when you see the child self pop up. Explain in a loving way, as you would to a child, how to handle the situation and help this child self mature and grow up. The difficulty is most people don't know that this childhood self is always present and can react at any time. And so people are frustrated with the reaction of a child in a grown person. But at least those that are close to this person should know. And once they know, help this child grow up. It is an emotional child. They may be rational and grown up in other ways, but there are certain triggers that bring out the child self. Help this child lovingly to mature and explain in a loving way what happened and how they can deal with it and how they are loved and how none of it means they are not loved and they are not abandoned, and that people are there for them, and help them understand how to interpret things so that they don't interpret things as a child having lost their mother or security, because to them that is what things can mean emotionally when they are triggered. You would know that that is not the reality of the situation, and so you need to lovingly explain that that is not what happened and that they are loved. Help them see it differently while ensuring them that they are safe and loved and supported. Their experiences and emotional reactions stem from when they are triggered, related to feelings of a child losing their security. It will be so fundamental. It will be such a major thing for them. They will react as if they are a child that has lost their mother or their security or their hope for survival. When you know that this is what they are dealing with, you can have compassion for their reaction, but you can also help them to see that this is not what is truly happening. Wow. Okay. So how do we heal it? So how do people that deal with it, how do they heal it? The first step is to become aware of this wounded inner child that is constantly present. The second step is to be willing to see that that is not the reality of the situation right now. They are no longer a child, and they are no longer in danger. They need to be willing to rationally look at the reality of things versus how they interpret them emotionally. And they really need a sense of security in the sense that they need to know that they really are safe. This might be the hardest step because most of them truly do not feel safe. And when you are convinced you are not safe, it might be quite a leap to convince yourself that you are. So that is why support from loved ones can make a big difference to get over that hurdle of not believing you are safe. Once you start believing that you are safe, you can start working on believing, or you can start working on feeling safe, which is a different matter. But it is like a muscle and you train it. So you train yourself to feel safe while knowing that you are. And this will help this inner child to grow up and mature. And you can be healed from borderline disorder. Okay, so what would motivate someone to heal from it? If the belief of being unsafe is so strong, then the person suffering with this would not know that the problem is inside of them. They will truly believe that the problem is in other people who are, in their mind, abandoning them and leaving them to die in a way, because they do feel like they will die. Just like a child needs emotional support to survive, a child is dependent on their caretakers for survival. And so they feel as if they may die if they do not have the emotional support that they need. If their belief is really ingrained, then they may not be motivated to heal because they have not yet understood that the issue is in themselves, not in the sense of judgment. They are not bad, but in the sense that the problem does not lie outside of them. It's not that the people around them are bad or unsupportive. It is that regardless of the people around them, they are still suffering. But if they have come to a point where they realize there is a pattern and that they are the common denominator in this pattern, that people may come and go, but their experiences are always the same. When they come to this realization, they can feel motivated to heal and be curious about what is happening within them. Then they can start their path, and there is help for them. Okay, I hope that answered the question. Okay, this one is interesting. How was oh, look at my hair. Crazy. There we go. I'm doing these videos so often, so now you get to see the good hair days and the bad hair days. Today is not the best hair day, but still try to look cute for y'all. Okay, who was Jesus? Was he divine, alien, or human? So let's dig into Jesus. Jesus had a purpose in his lifetime. He came in as a messenger, a prophet. This was not an accident. He came in as a messenger or prophet. And he was therefore born with a very uncommon spiritual power or strength. In this sense, he could feel and know things that other people couldn't. Not in the sense that other people actually weren't able to, but his ability was far greater than everyone else. Everyone has this ability to some extent, but his was very powerful. Okay, so what was his purpose? He knew before his birth that he was to usher in a new faith. The purpose of this was to correct the misunderstandings that were there from older faith traditions that had, to some extent, lost their ability to connect with people and lost their relevancy. They had become stale and rigid, and people could no longer reach the message inside of them. So they were no longer helping people, these older faiths. Jesus' purpose was to bring in a new faith to help people reach the message. The message being connection to divine, personal connection to the divine and understanding of the divine. Okay, so was he divine, or was he human, or was he an alien? He was definitely divine. He was also human, but not in the sense that most people are human. He came in for this specific purpose, and so he had a type of spiritual strength that is very uncommon for people to have. He had to have that strength to get the message out there. And so people assumed that he was special in the sense that nobody could do what he does. But what you are missing is that he had the qualities that he had to have in order to do this work. That was the purpose of it. If you had the task of bringing in a new faith, then you too would have those qualities. So, in a sense, he was divine and he was different, but he was human and he was no different in the sense that you are all equipped with the qualities you will need for your particular purpose in life. So, in that sense, you are all different, but the reason why he was different is because his task required it. Okay, so is it fair to say that he was human? Because I believe he said that he was no different, or that people could just follow his path. I mean, I do kind of believe that he was human. So give me more clarity on that. Yes, his task was to show people the way through the heart. That was his task. He was different in the way that he had the awareness from birth. Most of you don't have that level of awareness from birth. You all have it to some extent. But he was no different in the sense that you cannot do what he showed you to do. His purpose was to show you what you can do and how you can achieve the connection that he had. The difference is that you only need that connection for yourself, whereas he had a greater connection to God in order to help humanity. That is the difference. Okay, so is it fair to say that he is God in the sense that we are not, like in the Christian sense? I'm not sure that's what Christians believe, but that's the impression I got. So would that be fair to say he was divine in a sense that we are not? Is that fair to say? Yes and no. He was a teacher. He had a role as a teacher. But you can never say that you are not divine. There is divinity in everyone. You just cannot always feel it and know it. And his purpose was to show it to you. His purpose was to show you the divine in you, whether you express that as connection to God or the awareness of God inside of you. Whatever words you choose, it is that divinity in you, whether you want to believe that it is separate from you and comes from God, or whether you believe that it is God in you and you're the aspect of God that is you. However you want to frame it, Jesus' purpose was to show you the heart and to show you God within and to take the inner path to God, because religion was much about rituals and behavior, but no inner path. People had lost access to that knowledge because of language barriers, and Jesus came to show you that there is an inner path, that from within you can experience a knowing, a connection to God, an inner insight. Okay, so I'm thinking, like, is that kind of like I'm doing? Is that like channeling? Like, did he show people how they too could get the answers from within? Is that what he was doing? Yes. He was showing that there is no separation between anything and you, and that what you need to know, you will be able to know within yourself, and that you don't really know anything unless you know it from within yourself, and that a belief is not really a belief. It's not really a knowing unless you know it in your heart, unless you have experienced it yourself. And so his teaching is very aligned with Gnosticism, or any tradition that puts the emphasis on personal experience of knowingness and divinity. You do not need to feel inferior to Jesus because his task was different to yours. He had the spiritual equipment that he had to have in order to do his job. And you have what you need in order to do what you need to do. Do not compare yourselves and feel inferior. You are perfect. You are exactly as you were supposed to be, as you need to be, as you were meant to be. Appreciate yourselves. Do not use this wonderful teacher to make you feel inferior, but use it to recognize the unlimitedness within and feel the unity with Jesus in your heart. In truth, there is no separation. I had a sense there for a second of how there is really no separation with Jesus, like a true oneness. Wow. That was so profound. Oh, time. Okay, I have to do the last one. I need to wrap up. Beautiful. I really appreciate that one. That was beautiful. Okay. Last one is, what is chronic fatigue and how do we heal it? As I said, this is a bit personal to me. I know this is a very common one. What is chronic fatigue? Chronic fatigue is when you are tired of life because you have focused all of your energy towards responsibilities and work. And you have had not enough joy. And so you are tired. And resting is not enough because your mind or your body needs joy. Life needs to become fun again. You need to feel more playful, be more like a child sometimes. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we achieve that when we have chronic fatigue? What keeps you in this state of being serious and responsible is emotional hurt that has trapped emotional hurt that has stagnated. You have not released hurts. So in order to heal the chronic fatigue, you need to be willing to look at your hurts. Even though it is so sensitive to you, you need to look at your hurts and you need to be willing to release them and let go. And like a child would do, cry about it and then let go and move on. Do not make the hurtful things take up too much of your emotional space. Yes, they may be a fact, but you gain nothing from holding on to it. You gain nothing. You could be releasing it, feel lighter, and focus on joyous things. Allow yourself to be more young at heart. Anything else? Allow for the positive feelings. Do not take up all your emotional space with heavy emotions. Allow for lightness. I'm sure there's more on that one, but we are tight on time as usual. I hope that was helpful to you. I hope that gave you something. Keep the questions coming. I already have so many awesome ones, but I think, I mean, I am going to compile all the channelings, and I'm hoping to add in more, like answer more of the questions through in that compilation as well. Reminder that the offer for this week is the Money, Purpose, and Flow report for $149. And thank you. I hope this full moon is kind on you. It's a really good time for healing. So it's a really good time to have authentic conversations and like be vulnerable and be open and be real and release any toxicity and let go of past hurts and pains and traumas. It's a very good time for healing. Thank you for joining me. Oh, a little side note that I want to mention. The information that comes through as a direct result of whoever is watching. Because when I do these on my own, I don't get the fullness of answers. Obviously, because they come as a response to, the answers come as a response to a genuine curiosity. So if the curiosity isn't there for me personally, I will not get an answer. But because my intention here is to do it for the audience, the things that you are genuinely curious about, or that many people are genuinely curious about, those answers will come through. So it really is a co-creative experience. I want you to know that I am not able to do this in the same way on my own. I can only get insightful answers when it's something that I'm genuinely curious about, that I genuinely need to understand or need to know. I can't do it like generally for like any kind of question unless I'm actually interested. So I want you to know that you're a part of you're a very important part of these channelings. Thank you for joining me. Much love. Bye.